in the name of the FDC.
FDC already has an existing leadership, to which I'm the national vice chairperson. It's very counterproductive to recruit from within the forces of change that are already converted. I think I would advise them to divert their energies to recruit membership from the NRM, because that is the dictatorship that we're trying to push.
We can't steal what was already ours, okay? All we are doing is dusting off, awakening those who had been asleep or those who had given up. And now they're very happy because they see that indeed, okay, the quality is now there.
Birigwa argues that Katonga is...
I don't know what they have there, maybe substitutes.
As yet, we're just a couple of months into the electoral roadmap. The question is, will Katonga succeed?
Now, oftentimes, the political analysts have argued that history in Uganda has shown that electorates are more inclined towards individuals and not the political parties. So we asked, does the Katonga faction have that moving effect? And also, keep in mind that building structure is not a bad thing, but they have a challenge of time, 1 year into the election. So the Katonga group is faced with a very big decision. Is it going to be aiming at 2026, or actually the main goal, which is to change the status quo, the leadership of this country? That they have to make very clear.
Thanks, Victoria. Now, let's bring in veteran politician Frank Nawiso so he can weigh in on the matter. FDC Katonga is silently registering structures on ground, hoping to overwhelm Najana Nkumbi. But this question is, can it overwhelm it?
I think the support for Katonga, because they've been trying to organize meetings. What I'm hearing is that things have not been going well. I think people are beginning to realize that if you are the head of a family and you quarrel with your wife or your children, you don't abandon your wife and the children. And you go where? and in any case, if this Katonga is not a registered party. So I think the consultations may help them to decide whether to register a party. But as of now, I think they have a problem.
Now, there is an election in 2026. Let's find out what the Electoral Commission is saying. The Electoral Commission is saying it does have a funding gap of up to around 960 billion Uganda shillings in the financial year 2024-2025, something that will affect the electoral activities ahead of the 2026 general polls, according to EC officials who were appearing before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of the 11th Parliament. Only 150 million shillings of the 1.1 trillion Uganda shillings required to organize the 2026 polls has been provided by the Ministry of Finance.
Officials from the Electoral Commission presented their budget estimates for the financial year 2024-2025 to the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. They noted that out of the 1.1 trillion shillings required to organize
trillion 119 billion .465, but only 150.183 billion has been allocated as the affordable position, and this leaves a funding gap of 969 billion .282.
The issues we are raising here, especially the funding gap, resources are actually made available for EC because we are the vehicle that will conduct elections in this country, and it will be appropriate for us to ensure that many of you pass through the processes that are required to be able to come back.
Activities likely to be affected have statutory requirements and include the demarcation of new constituencies, organization of polling stations, compilation of registers, and voter education, among others.
From next year, the election activities are starting. The people to do the elections, the demarcation of areas, it's rather getting late, and I think you people are already very busy in your constituencies. So you cannot have elections. It will be in vain if we don't have the Commission facilitated.
According to the budget estimates, the Commission also requires funding for the recruitment of staff in 10 new cities, organizing of the anticipated by-elections, and procurement of new fleet. The Electoral Commission also raised concerns over the challenges that they are facing in implementing the court ruling that paved way for the participation of Ugandans in the diaspora and those in prison in general polls.
To implement the court order, the Commission is planning to carry out a comprehensive analysis and benchmarking to ascertain how other jurisdictions enforce the right to vote for persons in those categories.
Do you have any timelines? For example, can we confidently say that in the next election, people in the diaspora and in prisons will be able to vote? Number two, doesn't it have any financial implication? And if it does, have you captured it in the budget?
General Mujirafang, the questions there. Now, however, the members of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament have raised questions over the Electoral Commission's already substantial budget allocation, suggesting a need for prioritizing other service delivery areas.
Yes, I know democracy is expensive, but is there a way you can now consider zeroing down some of the budgetary requirements, because we also need to provide the hardware services to our people.
So 1.1 trillion would have been nice to spend on health, on education, to give the same voters. And that is just for Electoral Commission. You imagine the people who will go for elections in this country for the thousands of positions.
Why would we need new electoral areas? Why would we need new constituencies? Why do we need new electoral areas, honestly speaking? Is there a way you cannot talk to government to stop this madness?
The problem is not the Electoral Commission. The problem is us. We are the ones who are creating all these constituencies, electoral areas, and now seeking to downsize the rest of government except the political class. So the problem is not electoral, because these people, by law, they are supposed to be there to implement what we have done. So we have created the constituencies, even where there should not be any. We have created districts, including Nabilatuk. We have we have created all sorts of offices, and even put them to be elective. Cities, and the Electoral Commission has nothing to do except to implement what we have done. So the problem is still us. Can we downsize? Yes, we can downsize. We can make elections cheaper.
Appendices 2 and 4, we need more time to read and digest the contents. So in the event that we need to call you back, we'll do that.
More to come, brought to you by Castrol. It's more than just oil. It's liquid engineering.
Now, there was a huge meet at Korolo, and in that meet, Salam Bank certainly was a key feature there. It does mean that Islamic banking is here. Now, we borrowers have every reason to be excited. President Yoram Museveni with Hajat Namiro when we come back. What were they doing together?
If whiskey could talk, Johnny Walker Black Label would sing. With notes that only come with 12 years in a barrel. Sweet, smooth toffee, rich fruit, and a touch of smoke. Tastes as good as it sounds.
The government of Uganda, in collaboration with the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, welcomes you to the Global Symposium for Regulators 2024. The Global Symposium for Regulators is an annual event organized by the International Telecommunication Union, ITU. The GSR brings together 700 international industry stakeholders. Let's work together to promote regulation for impact. Welcome to GSR 24 Kampala.
With our NCBA Bank Home Loan, we can finance up to 80% of your mortgage and give you a repayment period of up to 25 years.
Daddy, that is 25 birthdays for me in our own home. Many suppers together. Lots of laughter with Mommy.
We know that it's not about the house, but the many memories made in it. Get an NCBA home loan with up to 80% financing. The name is NCBA. Sarah. These two... Or maybe not.
Sage margarine, easy to spread and fortified with vitamins A, D, and E. Now available in original and vanilla flavors. Perfect for your bread, chapati, mandazi, and all your baking needs. Find Prestige margarine at nearby supermarkets and shops. Distributed by Chapa General Enterprises, shop number 3, Chikowo, Rafik Building, Kampala. Prestige margarine, spread it, taste it, love it.
Pepsodent is aware that globally, 1 in 2 children have dental cavities. That's why by giving her Pepsodent, you're not only protecting her teeth, but also helping her grow up and thrive at every stage of her life with a healthy and confident smile so she can succeed and achieve all of her dreams. Because every smile matters.
Six new ministers that were appointed by President Yoweri Museveni last week have been sworn in today at Florence Wamala Nambonzo, among others. The swearing-in ceremony was presided over by the head of public service and secretary to cabinet Lucy Nachobe and witnessed by President Yoweri Museveni. The president has urged the newly appointed ministers to fight corruption and mobilize masses on wealth creation.
But somehow the leaders are not clear. They just go for other things. They go for barrios. They think this is politics. Barrios, then church, you are not a priest, but you go and sit there the whole day. Okay, you can go there, but that's not the solution to your people's needs. Then they make another mistake of trying to use their small money to give money which is not based on wealth creation. Number one, implement the NRM plan for wealth creation, wherever you are. If you do that, you will have even done mobilization. Because when people have got income and food, they are mobilized. This is the real mobilization which is stable, not the one of excitement, the one of real mobilization. Mobilization by people being satisfied. When people they are satisfied, they are mobilized.
Which was licensed by the Central Bank on the 8th day of September 2023. The bank aims to promote inclusive economic growth through a risk and profit-sharing model rather than traditional interest-based loans. During the launch at Kororo ceremonial grounds, President Yoweri Museveni praised the principles of Islamic banking and encouraged Muslims in Uganda to also participate in government programs.
Banks ezikolera ku musingi gw'obusente Uganda, this is a big market. Njagala kutuula nammwe ba sheikhs bwe munaamatiza nti esente zammwe nziyise eno mu banka eno.
We don't take and we don't give interest. Okay? It's forbidden in Islamic banking. We don't give you money directly and then you bring back money with a certain amount. No. Ours is commodity driven. There must be an underlying asset in the investment that we are getting into together with you. There are some where we share risk and return in the business. When you come to discuss with us on a profit sharing ratio from the onset, such that when the business makes the money, we then share profits in that pre-agreed ratio.
As UNAIB prepares for the transition to examinations under the new lower secondary curriculum, that's in October, stakeholders have expressed concerns about a lack of readiness. They highlight several challenges in implementing the curriculum, which could have a detrimental impact on UCE candidates, particularly those from rural areas.
In October this year, the inaugural cohort of candidates will undertake the Uganda Certificate of Education exams under the new lower secondary curriculum. Despite training efforts, stakeholders have highlighted challenges faced by schools in implementing the new curriculum, raising concerns about its potential impact on student sample papers by the Uganda Examinations Board.
We started the implementation when we were not very ready, and that's why we were having hiccups. Not minute and when they should be ready, and that firefighting is very bad because it puts the student who is the intended beneficiary into a tight corner.
Teachers' unions are primarily concerned that many of the challenges disproportionately affect rural and under-resourced schools.
We don't have any school that has all the teachers on government payroll. You find they are still borrowing some to part-time, even big schools. So that is a sign that we have shortages of teachers. Not that teachers have not qualified, but government has not allocated resources to recruit these teachers. And recruiting them is not enough. We need to do some bit of capacity building because we are changing the curriculum. These teachers were not groomed in the kind of discipline of this new curriculum. They need to be offered proper training, I want to stress, so that they can deliver the right content and we get the right outcome.
In light of these challenges to the new curriculum and enhance overall educational outcomes for students.
Feedback brought to you by
Write your story with us. Your story matters.
Now let's take a look at your feedback on our opinion question. And tonight we ask here on NBS Live at 9 using hashtag NBS Live at 9, how feasible is the Katikkolo's call for unity in the NUP? Let's take a look at the comments. And this is Sky Daniels. He says, the Katikkolo is absolutely right. However, there seems to be two factions in NUP and neither are they willing to unite nor resolve internal conflicts for the betterment of the party. NUP 2026 seems a tough one for them. Bernard Mwangzi says, the enemy easily conquers when there is division. The opposition is obliged to unite since their ideology is the same. In quotes, the struggles ongoing can cease if the frontliners sit and listen to each other. Failure to do so will keep them participants and not competitors at the polls. King Ron says President Chagulanyi and OHT Wampuga passed reconciliation stage. It's better for them to part ways because from each other's addresses to the media, everyone thinks he's right. Plus, Mpuga has failed to address the issue that has brought about this whole scandal. The call is right, but it begins with acceptance of mistakes committed and making amends, but not counterattacks. Truly unity is needed. That's from Facebook.
Social Spotlight brought to you by Nexcom.
What are your leaders or other major stakeholders in this country really saying online? This is Social Spotlight. Yoram 70 says, fellow countrymen and countrywomen, and especially the Bazukulu, the commencement of the 6th National Population and Housing Census, NPHC, will start on the 10th of May 2024, and therefore urge all Ugandans to take part. Anita Netamong, the Speaker of Parliament, says, I will come honorable to guest Shafo, the Speaker of the House of People's Representatives of Ethiopia, to a beautiful country. Honorable Shafo is in Uganda for a working visit on the invitation of the President, Yoweri Museveni. He's expected to give a keynote address at the Mentorship 2024 luncheon program at State House Entebbe on Thursday, 28th March 2024. Leader of Opposition, Joel Senyoin, said, today we met the Katikkolo of Buganda, Wechitiwa Charles Peter Maiga. We discussed a wide range of issues and also purchased kits for the Kabaka's birthday run. NBS Live at 9 takes a break, but we leave you with a picture of the day.
Okay. New Year, Ekomiewo mu party too with all its problems. But don't worry, because all is sorted with the Stanbic Bank salary loan. Enjoy interest rates of as low as 16% per annum, which is 1.34% per month, 2-minute turnaround time for digital loans, and a 75-day repayment holiday. For more information, contact us on 0800 150 150 or visit our social media platforms. Welcome to Bakaima Real Estates, your gateway to titled property in Uganda. Come and explore our services, including real estate financing, land documentation, property sales, and more. Easily buy and sell land and houses on major roads connecting to Kampala, with unique payment options that include paying directly or through our financial partners. Enjoy landlord benefits while paying in installments of up to 3 years through a 30% higher purchase arrangement. Visit us at Ham Towers, Makerere, first floor. Real people invest in real value. That's real estate.
We asked the children, how many of you brushed this morning? And this
Someone who puts their own story first. There'll be pages we love to read again and again, and some we'll barely remember. Sometimes we feel like the hero of our story, and other times, not. There are stories of dreamers, stories of creators, stories of strivers, stories of believers, and we're inspired by them all. That's why we invite you to write your story with us. Your story matters.
Now, the Finance Committee of Parliament has dismissed officials from the Ministry of Finance and Uganda Revenue Authority following concerns over the selection process of tax exemptions granted to 7 companies, including 3 hired, to what was initially presented to Parliament.
This has been struggling to pay. Before COVID, it had paid 66. Now, after COVID, because of the drop in income, as a result of the number of students going down, it has been able to only settle 28 million.
The moment we accept this, it is going to set a very bad precedent, very bad one. How many companies will come on board thinking for tax waivers?
And we've seen an individual like Donasi Kananura who wants an exemption on rental tax, an exemption of income tax, but they have been making money, and the justification is that this individual is sick and is suffering from diabetes.
The 3 only, or why the 7? For example, this other E and G of Mobiro, which they have picked. This guy had just been arrested in Dubai. It is one of the companies, he's the director, he's being paraded. He's an owner with the contracts in defense and everywhere. So these are guys who are coming that they shouldn't pay tax.
Look at the amounts, we need to know the history. These companies you're bringing, they are struggling. Can we have the history, how you've rated with them? So their file should be speaking to that fact.
Back to politics now. Following the Dokolo win, Uganda People's Congress Party President Jimmy Akena has asserted that the party is ready to navigate the 2026 political landscape, emphasizing the party's fearlessness and commitment to transparent electoral processes. Akena also addressed allegations of electoral malpractice, denying involvement in voter bribery in the recently concluded by-election.
And see whether our mobilization was bearing fruits. I led a team on the ground for the entire campaign period, zeroed on our message anchored. The people of Dokolo made a big statement. UPC did not run a negative campaign. I made it clear from the onset, we are not going to attack any candidate. We're not going to run a negative candidate. We're going to talk about our candidate. UPC did not have a budget to buy elections. Of what? Bribing or buying votes. It took place in Dokolo. It took place beginning on Tuesday evening and most of Wednesday. But the people who were doing it were officials of government.
Now, the Alliance for National Transformation Party has criticized President Yoweri Museveni for what they perceive as militarizing the cabinet and appointing his son as Chief of Defense Forces. Additionally, they have raised concerns about Muhoozi's capacity.
I mean, we are really concerned, especially about the militarization of government. Very concerned. But almost generals now, the entire cabinet is full of generals.
President Museveni will have scaled it down
the number and the size of cabinet. As we talk now, we have a cabinet consisting of 83 men and women. In a poor country like Uganda, that has failed adequately to provide and deliver overhead costs through these various and large ministerial appointments.
If we sit back, if we just let things be, then we will be in real trouble.
Top stories brought to you by.
Stay ahead in your business with Bank of Africa's contract financing solutions, available at every stage of your contract. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
And these are our top 3 stories. Buganda Kingdom calls for calm amid chaos in the National Unity Platform. And FDC Katonga in clandestine grassroots recruitment. Electoral Commission warns 2024-25 budget shortfalls and how that could affect.
Gold. We all want it. That soft yellow glow of a subdued sun in your hands. That precious polish of elegance. To hold it is one thing. Unmatched in consistency and with 23 Global Gold Awards. A beer unmatched in gold.
Rachel! Rich! The Queen Cobra, the password of the money, the original no spare parts, the 11th commandment, the question and the answer.
Sis, I know you want money, but I'm also broke.
Ah, no. Money is not an object. These days, Momo sorts me out anytime. In fact, my sister, I'm here for you. Can I borrow some chips?
When you need a loan, you've got MTN Momo. Wesotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable. In the production process of Aquafina, we expertly filter every drop, providing clear and perfect tasting water to help you keep hydrated with the added benefit of minerals. Aquafina is motored by Pepsi Cola International in Uganda and is available at only 1,000 shillings.
Hello?
Boss, invoices haven't been paid.
Yeah?
We have no money and we can't make payroll.
Hello?
Mzee, we need a new cement mixer.
Contract. Visit the nearest branch or call our toll-free number 0800-100-140 to learn more. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
A premium new look. With the shiny silver label. An innovative cold indicator. A premium green neck label for a crisp and easy drinking beer. Fresh new look. Experience the...
We are positioning ourselves from whence they came. America, 23,464. I'll come back to America. That's 1.9%. Europe, 39,596, 3.1%. The Middle East, 55,975, 4.4%. Oceania, 2,939, 0.2%. Then Africans visiting Africans, 1,136,216. That's 89.2%. Now, I told you about America, and I'm going to go back to it. Let me talk to you about this. Now, the numbers of tourists that came from overseas into Uganda All overseas is 126,136. Now listen, the number of tourists that came from America alone to Kenya, 118,480. Now use that for context as we get into the Ramadan tip.
Brought to you by Willy Travel, your life-changing journey.
It's a key to success in this world and the hereafter. As you're climbing the ladders up in your career, help others. Be humble with your neighbors, with people around you, with your spouse, with your parents, with your children. Be humble wherever you are. Ramadan is a month of fil ardi maraha. Do not walk while boasting. No, don't come into the office while showing off. Don't go into weddings and other places and congregations while showing off. Be humble. The more humble you are, the more successful you will be, and Allah will elevate you.
Willy Travel, your life-changing journey.
Oh, Sarah, these two are creeping into your personal space. Why don't we send them packing? Or maybe not.
Imagine boarding a plane only to discover your brother guy Musa is the pilot, or going into the treatment room and Zizinga the mechanic will be doing your body check. We all want to be served by professionals, and professions have standards, including insurance. Trust the Insurance Training College to maintain high standards of insurance professionals in Uganda through training and certification programs that are accredited by the National Council for Higher Education. For more information, visit www.itc.sc.ug or email info@itc.sc.ug. Insurance Training College, enhancing professionalism. The membership and training arm of the insurance industry in Uganda.
We understand that everyone yearns for a clean, tidy, and convenient working environment. That's why 7-Star Cleaning Services, we strive to provide highly customizable cleaning solutions using environmentally friendly chemicals, state-of-the-art equipment, and well-trained workforce for our clients. We do both commercial and domestic cleaning services throughout the metropolitan areas. Visit our head office, Plot 4691, Ntinda Chisasi Road. Contact us on our official lines 0393 243 503 or visit our social media platforms. 7-Star Cleaning Services, a remarkable difference.
Are you ready for an Easter weekend like no other? Picture this: 4 blissful days nestled in the serene beauty of Lake Victoria Serena Golf Resort and Spa. Wake up to the gentle lapping of the lake, indulge in exquisite dining experiences, and tee off at our world-class golf course. But wait, there is more. Rejuvenate at our Maisha Spa Renewal Retreat for a pampering session, or soak up the sun by our stunning poolside with activities for every taste. From thrilling water sports to relaxing nature walks, there is never a dull moment at Lake Victoria Serena. So why settle for an ordinary Easter weekend when you can make it extraordinary? Book your getaway now and create memories that will last a lifetime. Lake Victoria Serena Golf Resort and Spa, where every moment is magical.
Sparkle Salon knows that good grooming is not an option in the modern world.
It's a basic need, a need which we have for over 2 decades mastered provision of by building a great team of professionals and never compromising on the quality of our products. A need that we exist for and are very serious about. We want to give you the look that you desire. We have created great ambiances and convenience for our clients at all of our branches at Oasis Mall, Garden City, Lugogo Mall, Forest Mall, and Acacia Mall. Sparkle Salon, inspired by your needs.
Oh, Sarah, these two are creeping into your personal space. Why don't we send them packing? Or maybe not.
MBS Business Pulse with Isabella Tugume.
This is the Business Pulse, and you're welcome. 3 commercial banks have been authorized to transition from Tier 1 commercial bank license to Tier 2 credit institution license effective July 1st, 2024. In a notice by the central bank, that is Bank of Uganda, ABC Capital Bank Uganda Limited, Guaranteed Trust Bank and Opportunity Bank Limited have been granted a transition period of 3 months effective April 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2024, during which they will make adequate arrangements to phase out products and processes that require a Tier 1 license. This is intended to ensure a smooth service transition for their customers and to mitigate any disruption to the financial sector stability. Airtel Uganda held its first annual general meeting since its listing on the USE Stock Exchange last year and announced its audited financial results for the year 2023. Now, Airtel Uganda shareholders will carry home a total dividend of 280.8 billion Ugandan shillings, I beg your pardon, with an effective dividend yield of 7% for the year 2023. According to the listed telecom's audited financial results for the year ending December 2023, the telecom demonstrated consistent revenue growth combined with sustained margin and strong cash flow generation, with revenue increasing by 11.5% to 1,777 billion shillings. Data revenue increased by 19.6% to 663 billion shillings. Now, the earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and the amortization shot up by 3.4% to 918 billion shillings. This left profit after tax of 297 billion shillings. Also, other listed companies are announcing their financials like KQ and Equity Bank. There was intense activity today at the Securities Exchange as 7 of the 16 listed companies registered an increase in share price, while 1 saw a decrease by the end of today's trading session. Umeme Limited led action with 8.73%. KCB Group increased by 7.07%. East African Breweries Limited increased by 3.64%. Equity Bank increased by 2.80%. Nation Media Group increased by 1.06%. And Centum Investment Corporation Limited and Kenya Airways as well increased with a uniform figure of 0.58%. At the end of today's trading session, National Insurance Corporation registered a loss of minus 3.28%, whereas the other counters did not see a change in share price. Let's have a look at the Forex market. Now, looking at the US dollar, it closed today's afternoon trading session buying at 3,881.54 shillings and selling at 3,891.54 shillings, signaling continued high demand for the US dollars from almost all sectors. Other major currencies remain relatively stable against the Ugandan shilling. Sales for most fresh food items remain relatively low. However, looking at the markets of scope that is Nakasero, Nakawa, and Owino. Fish, maize flour, and soap is what we're looking at today. And a kilogram of fish goes for 20,000 shillings in Nakasero market, but it's cheaper by 5,000 shillings in Owino at 15,000 and 2,000 shillings cheaper than Nakasero in Nakawa market at 18,000 shillings. Maize flour is 2,000 shillings a kilogram, but is 1,800 in Nakawa and 1,700 in Owino, whereas soap is 7,000 shillings a bar in Nakasero market, but is 500 shillings cheaper in Nakawa and Owino market.
Sports news brought to you by
Black shines bright. Drink it in.
Uganda Rugby Cranes Sevens forward Alex Satulinda says that winning a gold medal at the 13th African Games in Ghana last week was a major milestone in his career. The Stanbic Black Pirates flanker was part of the Tolbert Onyango coached side that went unbeaten as Rugby Sevens marked debut at the Continental Games.
Teams respectively with you as the African. It was Uganda's Rugby Crane Sevens and Lady Crane Sevens who emerged triumphant in the men and women's categories respectively during the 13th edition of the Games. The tournament attracted 7 men and 5 women's teams respectively, with Uganda's sides lifting titles unbeaten after the round-robin competition to write their names in the history books of African rugby. Rugby Crane Sevens forward Alex Atrinda is upbeat following the victory.
Of course, for me personally, this is my first gold medal for the country, in terms of Rugby Sevens, and I'm very happy. Of course, I'd never been proud. I'd never had national anthem being sung for me. It was a very proud moment really for me, and on a foreign land, and I must say I'm very excited to be back home.
Despite the absence of continental giants South Africa and neighbors Kenya fielding a largely youthful side for the tournament, the Ugandan teams put up dominant performances.
Kenya is always a stubborn team when we are playing them, and having fallen short to them in the recently concluded Challenger Series, it was a 5-7 defeat which really didn't sit well with us, and we really had to make sure that we get out this win. Anyway, it looked like the tournament was in our favor already, but then we had some errors we had to correct from the first game and make sure that we build onto it as we go into the other games.
The Ghanaian sides were coming from the Uruguay Challenger Series, and the Lady Crane Sevens captain Bisley Kwe is happy with the performance.
It was the first organization that they have done, so it's a big achievement on our side, being the first one winning it, so it's a big achievement.
Uganda won a total of 20 medals in Ghana, including 4 gold, 6 silver and 10 bronze, having fielded the biggest contingent ever. Brana Simwe, Nbs Live at 9.
Sports news brought to you by
Black shines bright. Drink it in.
Rachel Rich. The Queen Cobra, the password of the money, the original no spare parts, the 11th commandment, the question and the answer.
Osmosis. I know you want money, but I'm also broke.
Ah, no. Money is not an object. These days, Momo sorts me out anytime. In fact, my sister, let me also sort you out.
Really?
I've just sent you instructions on how to get a loan on Momo. I'm here for you. Can I borrow some chips?
When you need a loan, you've got MTN Momo. We're so tingy. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Oh, Sarah, these two are creeping into your personal space. Why don't we send them packing? Or maybe not.
Better study tips. Scammers often pose as friends or family to gain your trust. Always verify requests for money or personal data, even if they seem urgent. A quick call to the person or company claiming to contact you can save you from falling victim to this deceit. Brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission, Equity Bank, Momo, United Media, MTN, Stanbic Bank, and NBS.
Now coming up tomorrow on The Morning Breeze, and we'll be talking everything economics, and of course we'll be hosting the PSST, that's Ramadan Gobi, and talking about
investing in growth and how will the next budget prioritize economic acceleration.
Interesting. That's 8 a.m., right?
Bright and early tomorrow. But much later on NBS tonight will be political conversations shaping the world, and that is on Straight Talk Africa.
"2024 is set to be an election super year, with dozens of countries heading to the polls worldwide, including the United States. How will the outcome of these elections shape the geopolitical landscape? Also, after months of uncertainty and political chaos, Senegal appears to have elected Africa's youngest president. With over 1/3 of African countries holding elections in 2024, who will emerge as the continent's next leaders? We'll look at Senegal's experience and the future of democracy on the continent. Straight Talk Africa starts now. Hello there and a warm welcome to Straight Talk Africa. It is great to be with you. We're coming to you from VOA's headquarters in Washington. I'm Haiti Adams. Thank you so much for joining us. Worldwide, 2024 looks set to be the biggest global election year in history, a super election year, with more voters heading to the polls than ever before. That's around 4 billion people. More than 60 countries plus the European Union are scheduled to hold national elections, the outcome of which could shape geopolitics for years to come. And one of the most widely watched elections will take place right here in the United States in November, as both Democratic President Joe Biden and Republican former President Donald Trump battle for the White House. Now, when it comes to U.S. election coverage, VOA's national correspondent Steve Herman has seen and done it all. And Steve joins me here in studio now. Steve, what a pleasure to have you here with us. Help us understand what is going on. 2024 will see the U.S. have its first presidential rematch since 1956. What is at stake for the U.S. and for the future of this country in November, Steve?
Yes, and Donald Trump is trying to do something that's only been done once before in American history in the late 19th century when Grover Cleveland came back after missing one term, losing an election, and then coming back. And what's at stake depends on who you're listening to. If you listen to the Democrats and Joe Biden, democracy is on the line. That Donald Trump, according to the Democrats, poses an existential threat to America's democracy, and that he will be an autocrat if he returns to power. If you listen to the Republicans and Donald Trump, they will tell you that another term of the Democrats and Joe Biden will run this country into the ground, that the policies will bankrupt the nation, will be flooded with immigrants, and gas prices and inflation will go sky high. So very opposing views depending on which political camp you're in.
And tell us a little more. You gave us some insight into the types of messages that are front and center for these candidates. But tell us a little more about their broader messages and the sort of tactics that these two front runners are employing in their bid to appeal to voters this election cycle, but also especially in the battleground states.
Yes, the battleground states are key because there's only a handful, perhaps 6 states that are really going to determine the outcome of this election because of the system we have. It's not the popular vote that gets you elected president. It's the electoral votes, and the larger states have more electoral votes, but even small states can sway the election too. Basically what we're seeing, the messaging is very much focused on the opposing candidate. Issues don't seem to be having a lot of impact. For example, the Democrats are out there saying, look at all these accomplishments that Joe Biden has made during his 3 years in office. That seems to be falling flat. But now we're seeing Joe Biden on the campaign trail talking more and more about Donald Trump personally. And that seems to be rallying the base, because really very few people in this country are undecided. Or the undecideds are saying, I don't want to vote for either of these candidates because they're both very unpopular relative to past elections. So the messaging is to sort of rally the base, to make sure for the Democrats to get black voters, especially black women, the youth vote. The Hispanic vote seems to be splitting more between the Republicans and Democrats. And to get those who voted for Joe Biden the last time to come out again.
So each making it a referendum on the other?
Correct. But they need, because there are so few undecided voters, they have to get, Donald Trump has to get his voters out again from the last two elections. And we've seen some softening of that with the performance that Nikki Haley, the last standing Republican contender, the last woman standing, is still getting double digits, even though she's really no longer campaigning in Republican primaries.
You spoke to me earlier about one thing you think people are missing in this election cycle. Tell me a little more. I found that fascinating.
Sure. It's third-party candidates. Now, we've had them in the past. They never win. Perhaps the most significant contender was way back in the early 20th century when former President Theodore Roosevelt ran as an independent on the Bull Moose Party. Okay, and this year we have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He is the son of the assassinated former Attorney General, who was the brother of John F. Kennedy, who was also assassinated. But most of the Kennedy family has disowned Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because of his policies, and they're supporting Joe Biden. That said, he has this name value, and because he is now, at least at this point, the most significant independent candidate, just getting thousands of votes here and there in these swing states could determine who wins that particular state and the electoral votes. It's thought that Kennedy probably will take more votes from Biden than Trump, but that remains to be seen. So we really need to watch how he performs. In some states, he's already in double digits, and we're very early in the game as far as the third-party candidate goes.
Now, of course, we've had a good look at sort of Joe Biden's foreign policy, but with the rest of the world watching, what kind of shifts could we see in U.S. foreign policy should Donald Trump return to the White House?
Well, I think we saw very much during his 4 years what his policies were like as far as foreign policy. Basically threatening NATO that unless they raise the percentage of defense spending of their GDP, that he didn't feel like it was worth defending certain countries. He also made noises about the alliances that we have with Japan and South Korea, the war between Ukraine and Russia. He said if he gets back in power, he'll settle that within a day. And people, pundits are saying that would not be to Ukraine's advantage. And of course, he's been a very strong supporter of Israel. And what we're seeing now, obviously, is pressure on Joe Biden and the Democrats to be less accommodating to Israel and put more pressure, as we've seen this week here in Washington, on the Israelis not to go ahead with for example, the invasion of Rafah in the Gaza Strip.
We've got very little time, but I just wanted you to tell me about at least one major challenge that each of these candidates will have to overcome if they want to take the White House.
I think, as I hinted at, it's getting out the vote of their bases, how to maintain enthusiasm where a lot of people are saying, okay, I may have voted for this person before, I'm really not that enthusiastic about them this time, and the age factor. And again, that's where we could see these protest votes for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who really has no chance of winning, but could be a spoiler perhaps more for Biden's reelection than for Trump getting back into power.
Well, Steve Herman, I don't know of a single person who is not going to be watching this election coming up, and we know you're going to be doing some excellent reporting then as well. Steve Herman is VOA's Chief National Correspondent. Steve, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We're going to take a short break here on Straight Talk Africa, and when we return, Senegal has just elected Africa's youngest president in a poll that very...
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain, and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in...
You're with Straight Talk Africa. Welcome back. It was the election that very nearly did not happen. Just weeks ago, Senegal's road to the 2024 presidential polls seemed uncertain and overshadowed by deadly protests. Today, the West African nation is on the verge of making history following peaceful elections on Sunday. Senegal has a new president-elect, the man from the main opposition, Bassirou.
And with transparency, I will work to get rid of corruption in all sectors and will work toward rebuilding our institutions.
Faye says it's time to bring calm to the country after outgoing President Macky Sall tried to postpone the February elections until December, plunging the country into a brief political crisis.
National reconciliation and rebuilding our fundamental ways of living together. The pre-electoral crisis we lived through cost some people their lives, and many were jailed. We hope to turn the page and reconcile people's hearts and the Senegalese people.
Sunday's official election results have not yet been published, but Faye's supporters say they are satisfied with what they have seen so far.
We were hoping to win with over 70% in the first round, but it seems like we are at 57%. It's only preliminary numbers, but we hope that number will be even higher.
We lived through moments that almost pushed Senegal into chaos, but thank God everything is back in place now. We had a transparent presidential election. Candidate Diomaye Faye was elected with a comfortable margin. What we must do now is reconcile the Senegalese people, as Diomaye said in his speech, and transform the country's economy.
Earlier at the ruling party's coalition headquarters, Amadou Ba, the coalition lead candidate who lost the election to Faye, told reporters about a conversation he had with the president-elect.
He told us he congratulated him, he's happy for his victory, and he wishes him well.
I wish him success, and may God accompany him as he carries out his various missions and goals for our glorious nation and for the well-being of our population.
As Ba's supporters try to digest their candidate's loss in the first round that saw 17 candidates vying for the top job, tensions of the last few months seem to be fading away and being replaced by the hope that Senegal's reputation as a beacon of democracy in the region will soon be restored.
Well, let's go to Mariama Diallo in Senegal. She joins us from the capital, Dakar. Mariama, great to see you. What an exciting time it seems there in Senegal. Look, Faye has been described in international media as the unexpected president because, of course, it is Ousmane Sonko who has actually been the formidable, powerful opposition candidate here. But, you know, he won't be the president now. How do people feel about the fact that it is now, in fact, Faye and not Sonko who will be the president now? Essentially, Plan B goes to State House.
Well, thank you very much, Heidi, for having me today. The strategy that they came up with, that Ousmane Sonko came up with in the beginning, basically paid off because he knew that he was barred from running because of a previous defamation conviction. So if he didn't run then and didn't put another candidate forward, then maybe they would not have won. So he had decided early on to endorse Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Basically, it's a coalition. So he looked at the best person, the most electable person, I'm thinking, and decided this is the guy I'm going to endorse. And even while they were campaigning, although they had a very short time to campaign because both of them were in jail, they decided to say that Diomaye was Sonko and Sonko is Diomaye. So basically, you know, showing their similarities, their goals, their thinking about Senegal. And I think people at the end decided we're going to go with Diomaye. And in fact, it will be very interesting. Your question is a very good question about who's going to really be taking the decisions, because the two of them, you see them all the time. But I have to say, when he was making that speech the other day at the Radisson Blu, he actually was there on his own. Sonko was not seen. I was asking, is he here? Because usually you see them together. Although also when they were campaigning, they had decided at some point, because they didn't have enough time to be in every place together, they actually split. So one person will do this part of Senegal and the other person will do the other part of Senegal. So I think the strategy really paid off.
Absolutely, and I've seen some of his speeches. He does strike a figure who has essentially, you know, come into his own for a relative, you know, unknown or outsider, especially for those of us outside of the country. But Mariama, we've seen congratulations coming in from several political figures in Senegal. But what about President Macky Sall? What's been the word from him?
Well, I'm actually going to just go ahead and read you part of his tweet, his reaction. He had said, basically, je salue, I'm going to read it in French and just translate very quickly in English. Je salue le bon déroulement de l'élection présidentielle du 24 mars. Je félicite le vainqueur Bassirou Diomaye Faye, que les tendances donnent gagnant. C'est la victoire de la démocratie sénégalaise. Basically, he saluted the way the elections took place in transparency, in calm, without a lot of issues. The other thing is that he congratulated Bassirou Diomaye Faye, and he also said that this is basically a victory for the Senegalese democracy.
Well, even defeat sounds better in French sometimes, doesn't it? Mariama, what happens next now in terms of wrapping up this phase of the election and as we move forward now to Inauguration Day?
Well, the fact that the main rival to Bassirou Diomaye Faye had conceded the candidate Amadou Ba from the basically the ruling party coalition leader who conceded. I think in about a few hours, in fact, it's almost 2 p.m. here. I think at 5 p.m. in about 3 hours, we're supposed to go to the tribunal of Dakar to actually, you know, listen to, they are going to be giving the provisional results, they said. And so we're going to go through that, and I'm sure they'll explain what the next steps are once, you know, all the results are certified and everything. I think Macky Sall is supposed to be done. His term ends on April 2nd. April 4th is usually Independence Day for Senegal, but I think once his term ends, then, you know, the arrangements of when the inauguration will be and what the next steps and everything that's going to be going on in the next few weeks and few months will take place.
Well, we'll keep an eye on events and developments there in Senegal. VOA's Mariama Diallo doing some excellent reporting for us and speaking to me from Dakar in Senegal. Mariama, thank you. Well, Africa looks set for its own bumper election year with a third of the region, that's over a dozen countries, headed to the polls in 2024. We're going to pull up a map here for you so you can see what exactly that looks like. Analysts say the outcome of these elections across the continent will tell us whether democracy in Africa is deepening or in decline. Well, here to help us better understand how these elections could shape the geopolitical landscape, I'm joined by MacDonald Lewanika. He's a political analyst and director at the Accountability Lab. He joins us via Skype from Harare in Zimbabwe. MacDonald, a warm welcome to Straight Talk Africa. I want to start off here with developments out of Senegal. What is your assessment of how this election played out? I mean, given the fact that there was so much uncertainty and quite a lot of political chaos just weeks ago. Look at where we are now with the man who will become Africa's youngest president. What is your take?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of what has been coming out of Senegal is very, very inspirational stuff. But more importantly, beyond the inspiration, it is a triumph for democracy, indeed, a triumph for institutions. Because remember, a lot of this is happening against the will of President Sall, who had wanted to stay on, but the courts overturned that decision. So there is something to be said about the strength and independence of institutions. There is something to be said about the will of the Senegalese people to continue on the democratic path. I think over the course of the last year or so, there have been numerous protests associated with these issues of elections in support of Sonko, who we have been talking about. And finally, we are here. So it's not just about electing Africa's youngest leader. I think we are proud of that. But more importantly, we are proud of the Senegalese people and the triumph of democratic practice and culture that they have demonstrated through this election.
I'm going to come back a little later on again to what you just talked about there about age. But Ousmane Sonko was, of course, barred from running for president, and now his ally will occupy the highest office in the land. We spoke to Mariama Diallo about this a little earlier on. Faye has been described as sort of the Plan B candidate, a proxy for Sonko, a replacement essentially. But could this complicate Faye's presidency? I mean, can we expect Ousmane Sonko to essentially be calling the shots from the sidelines or behind the scenes?
I think that suspicion is there, that something like that could happen. But again, I come back to the issue of institutions and the triumph of institutions and ideas. I think part of what needs to be remembered is that Sonko, even though he was popular and he was indeed the main opposition candidate, he was not just standing for Sonko's ideas, he was standing for ideas that a lot of Senegalese people, including Faye, President-elect Faye, also stood for. They were coming from the same institution, presiding over a movement that they built together. So even though we do expect some cooperative governance to take place, I think it would be unfair to label President-elect Faye at this particular point in time as any kind of a puppet president, so to speak, who will be controlled by Sonko. I think that there will be respect for the idea of change that they were sponsoring. There will be respect for the idea of independence of institutions and building democratic culture.